Guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So by Friday, I'm gonna have a background up. Isn't that exciting? So everything on my timeline while I was looking to see like what was new, what I could potentially research, what I could comment on, everything on my Twitter timeline today was particularly depressing. And I'm like talking about depressing worse than my brand of depressing. Things of like the world is ending, horrible shit, frankly. So instead of talking about that type of horrible, we're gonna talk about, well, I don't know, a different type of horrible. Lucky you. Basically, I decided to Google weird news. And boy, there's some shit going on. This is a story that is not exactly incest, but is incest adjacent. There's always someone in my comments saying let people do what they want, it's their lives, blah, blah, blah. I'm not getting in anyone's way. I'm not gonna fly over to England and like break through the door and tell people, hey, you can't have sex. I'm not doing that. I'm just commenting on something I find weird and that troubles me. That's all it is. I'm warning you right now, from the title, this is a roller coaster. My sister is engaged to our stepbrother who bullied me relentlessly as a teen. A woman has been left horrified after learning her younger sister had become engaged to their stepbrother who spent years relentlessly bullying her when they were kids. There are so many layers to this that I had to read the title a few times because I'm like, wait, hold on. There's bullying, there's incest adjacent behavior, there's secrecy. So I'm not gonna read the whole article because some of it is just, prefacing the whole thing. I just want to get down to the story. So basically the article starts with talking about how it can be difficult for kids when their parents remarry. And then it goes on to say, one woman found this out the hard way when her dad married a single mom with a son 2 years older than herself, several years after her own mother passed away. So like I said, there are layers because I think this person already had a difficult childhood having lost their mother. So I think part of that makes what happens here sting more in some way. Kind of like a family quote-unquote betrayal, you might say. Our stepbrother was nasty, selfish, and used to take my things and ruin them under the guise of borrowing. He bullied me, especially because of how weak and thin I was. I was dealing with health problems, still am. He even got to my school friends and turned them against me by spreading lies and rumors. We were kids at the time, but I resented him and I still do. I cut contact with him after I moved away for college, but kept in touch with my younger sister. We maintained a great sisterly bond, and because of that, I'd visit regularly since she's still living with my dad. The 23-year-old explained that while her sister usually told her everything, such as who she was dating, she had recently begun holding back, something which she put down to her being away from home and so busy with college work. 2 weeks ago, the woman returned home for her sister's 21st birthday party at her parents' house and noticed her sister and stepbrother were sitting unusually close for the entire day. After she opened her gifts, she said she wanted to tell us something. She seemed very irritable and nervous. She talked about our mom's death, stepmom's presence in our life, and the situations we'd gone through, she continued. Then asked my stepbrother to join her, and he stood next to her and held her hand as she lifted her other hand, saying she and my stepbrother just got engaged. The levels of horrifying almost kind of want to make me pace. Like this whole story low-key is just anxiety-inducing in my opinion. There are so many layers here because they hit it, which I mean is understandable because I don't think anyone in the family would be particularly enthused about them being engaged. Later on in the article, there's actually someone's comment because this was posted on Reddit, and the Redditor made a really good point. They said something along the lines of, if they thought this wasn't wrong, why would they hide it from the get-go? Like if they thought that there was nothing to hide, why was this kept so secretive until, the level of engagement, a serious point, right? And on one hand, I can understand why, because they knew no one was going to be happy about it. But on the other hand, I'm wondering if they have internalized themselves. What we're doing here is not something that maybe they're even okay with themselves, if that makes sense. Like the internalized, societally ingrained in a lot of places that, that's just not something you do. Now, of course, there's always the extra level that they're not siblings, they're step siblings, but they did grow up together. So they grew up socialized as siblings. So that's an argument a lot of people were making. Another Redditor had commented something along the lines of, if the parents had remarried when the couple weren't kids, when they were all adults, it might be a little bit different because they didn't grow up in a household where they treated each other as siblings until a certain point, obviously. So there's that argument. And like I said, I'm not stopping them from doing anything. I am uncomfortable with the idea that people that are raised as siblings from childhood get together. I also feel particularly bad for the sister who comes back and just finds this shit out. I mean, like, everyone found out abruptly, but especially the sister who had been away and who was close to her, just finding out like that. I can't even imagine. This is the sister who just found out. I was dumbfounded, absolutely shocked. All I could hear was my stepmom and aunt yelling at them, calling them names. My sister defended herself, saying they were never siblings and they needed to stop yelling, but stepmom didn't stop. I looked and saw my dad looking stunned. Instead of getting involved in the arguing, the woman calmly got up, grabbed her bag, and exited the party as soon as she could, still trying to comprehend what she had just heard. So then there's an extra part that I don't think is super relevant to the story, where the engaged sister calls the sister who left crying, saying she needs her support because none of the family is behind this. And like I said, how is that surprising in any way? And then one of the saddest things that I think has come from this is that the sisters have not spoken since this has occurred. I don't know if that's something you kind of get past, because I don't know what the non-incest sister feels. I don't know. Obviously, I'm not her. I'm not in her head. But I can imagine that, feeling like you're losing another family member, obviously not via death like her mother, but losing them because you can't stand by a decision they're making must be very difficult, because it might perhaps be somewhat reminiscent of her mother passed away when she was young, and now there's someone else she's losing in a different way. So I feel like that's a big part of it. Like, aside from being morally not okay with a stepbrother, stepsister engagement, I think there's probably that layer. And I say that mainly because the times I've lost friends, again, not death, just something happens, I'll think of another friendship I've lost, So I think that it kind of brings up old potential traumas and old shitty situations, tragedies even, that deeply affected you. Actually, I'm really interested to know, please let me know in the comments whether you think there's a difference between a stepbrother and a stepsister getting together when they were raised together as children, and a stepbrother and stepsister getting together when their parents got married while they were already adults, and therefore they were never raised in the same childhood as siblings. Let me know. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.